Well, I mean, we met at Canaveral Airlie Beach. We kind of like parked up right next to each other, and you go from there, Jeannine.
We pulled in at the exact same time. I noticed him, but at the same time I was so focused on going running, I just ran off. And then I came back and there was a young man sitting at an old rustic shelter. And I was trying to avoid making eye contact with him. But he made eye contact with me, and the next thing, I'm like, okay, God, I'll take this opportunity to share the gospel with him.
So did I. I decided, you know what, she looks pretty nice. I'm going to share the gospel with her too. And yeah, we just hit it off, and I guess what I saw, the best thing I saw about Jeannine was, it wasn't the physical beauty, because she is beautiful, but I meet a lot of beautiful girls, and as soon as they open their mouth, I don't find myself fully attracted to them, but when Jeannine opened her mouth, it's almost like God was speaking. It was really strange, and I hadn't experienced it before. And the way she prayed was beautiful. That's what really drew me near to her, and yeah, we just spoke for how many hours? 2-3 hours, and I didn't really want her to leave, but I had time. And I think she had to go to school the next day.
Yeah. But significant thing was that I drove down to the foreshore, which is about 2 minutes from where I live. And I remember on that particular day, it's like, oh, I'll just drive. And because I had my car, then I could stay till after dusk and didn't have to worry about it getting dark or being worried about walking home alone. Even though it was really close, I know there's a few shifty characters near where I live. And yeah, so from my perspective, I just noticed it was like an instant trust was built between us. It was like brother, friend. He'd say things like he had no intention to get married, but I didn't believe him.
It's true though.
And yeah, like he parted with saying, oh, maybe we can go for a run or do a hike together. And in my head I was like agreeing, but thinking it's not going to happen. And he offered to help me cook some vegetarian meals, because I was quite concerned that if I went vegetarian that I wouldn't get all the nutrients that I needed. And yeah, then he followed it up, managed to get my contact details from one of the guys at church. Contacted my dad through a wristband that he still wears today, because he's got a website where he shares the gospel, which I gave to him when he asked me would his parents happen to know my parents. I'm like, because they both share the gospel. I was like, oh, I don't know, why don't you ask him yourself? And the next thing I had my dad asking me, who's this guy Stephano? I'm like, oh, he's just someone I met, and brushed it off. And then I found out that he said he had a beautiful daughter.
I did. And I was just down at the beach because I was pretty much based down there for a couple of weeks. Every day, every night, I just sit there waiting for people to come. I say God works with me. He just sends people my way. I don't have to do any work whatsoever. I just need to speak His word and love them. I just thought Jeannine was another victim. So yeah.
And what did you go around telling the town after you met me?
I told more than the town. I went around. I went all the way up to Cooktown afterwards on that little adventure with the hitchhiker, and I kept talking about Jeannine as being a woman I'd marry, you know. Yeah.
And at the time I had my eyes on someone else, and I prayed and said, God, if this is not the right person, can you bring, you know, my future husband along? And when I told Stephano, I'm sorry, I can't have you come over to cook with me because there's someone else I believe is the one, he's like, oh, I totally respect you. And I mentioned I believe that he could be my future husband. He goes, but with your next husband? And that just rung in my head. I was like, actually, every guy I meet, I always see them as my potential husband. And I'm like, perhaps this person isn't my husband. And it was as if he was inferring that he didn't believe he was. And I later discovered he didn't, because he knew I prayed that God would bring my future husband along, and he was interstate, so he's like, here I am. He's over in
I actually thought I was a husband. It just felt like I was, but I wasn't. Yeah, it was weird because I dedicated my life to God and actually put a ring on to say I don't want anybody else but God, you know, just to focus. And that caused a few problems for us because I was always battling between God and Jeannine, but then a friend of mine was talking about, you know, God has different plans for us and we don't understand, and he had a better plan for me.
Yeah, so even though I brushed off Stephano when he'd offered to help me to prepare some vegetarian meals, and he said, I totally respect you, I won't contact you again. He did follow up a text message to see how it's going with things at school, because he was the only person in 2 years that I opened up to. And I was kind of bedazzled and frazzled by the fact that he got me talking, because I was very guarded. And so he asked how things were going at work, and it just happened that the timing was impeccable, and I responded with when he just returned to the Whitsundays from Bundaberg, and I asked him to come round to help me to prepare some vegetarian meals, and asked him to distract me. Didn't know what it would look like, but just go to the movies or something, and the rest was history. Yeah, he proved his I guess his love and his care and his kindness and eagerness to serve me and be there to support me through the good times. Well, at the time I was going through hardships, so through the bad times and through the good times. And yeah, I did pray and ask God not to bring a boyfriend along because that's too confusing. Can you please bring, you know, my future husband? And when I met Stephano, it was like overnight I got a husband. And he proposed to me.
Had a lot of work to go.
Yeah,
a lot of work to do to become a good husband though.
Proposed to me 4 weeks later. So there was always that security that he was.
That what our foundation, which is also really beautiful because Jeannine's so forgiving in all the wrong things I do, is that we want each other to please God more than ourselves. So I just go, Jeannine, you please God, that pleases me. And she says, Stephano, you please God, that pleases me. That's what holds us together a lot.
And I just say to him, you know, I feel secure that he's not going to leave me, that he's going to be committed to me. He's proven that. And I say I feel like we're magnets. We keep being drawn back to each other. In and through, not just the good times, but the bad times too. And so we've learnt to, you know, a lesson is not let the sun go down on your wrath, like it says in the word, and to forgive quickly. Love keeps no records of wrong.
Forgive quickly. That's it. Well, the ring is nothing special physically, but you know, it's got more of a spiritual meaning behind it. Jeannine, she obviously gave me an ultimatum. God had to give her a ring, or God had to give me a ring to give to her. And so we went on this little trip to where I actually found my ring inside this waterfall, little waterhole. And I found a ring and committed to God maybe a couple months before, and just so dedicated. So it's really, really cements the ring in marriage, because it really makes you look at it and think, you know, because sometimes you need something to remind you to be faithful to God, not simply just your words. And it was really reminding me. I think that's what really worked. Not, you know, I don't think it's specifically for everybody, but for me it was really important. And people, you know, it would keep me away from spiritual harm sometimes, and it's saved me in a sense, spiritually as well, many times. Sorry.
But he'd often say he was going to get me a ring. He's going, I'm going to go back to that creek. I'm going to find your ring. But he said that before I gave him the ultimatum, when I said, okay, if God wants you to marry me, if it's God's will, then he has to provide you with a ring, and you've got 1 week. And obviously in my mind I was thinking a diamond ring, but if I look back at when I was 18, I wrote down I don't need a diamond ring, all I need is a wedding band. and you know, I wanted a garden wedding, and you know, wanted it to be very simplistic, barefoot from memory. And I always said the most important thing was the man at the end of the aisle. Everything else doesn't matter. So, you know, if I have to go down the aisle on a donkey or on crutches, it's not important. The important thing is the person I'm marrying.
And the funny thing is, both our rings come from the same waterhole. And we obviously had to dive for them for many hours.
And
except the first one.
I actually liked his ring on his finger because it always made me feel like he was committed to me and faithful. But he was encouraged to take it off because it was a symbol of faithfulness to God, and him taking it off was he gets it back on the wedding day. Yeah. Choosing not only to be faithful to God but also to me. So God provided not only a ring, he also provided a wedding dress, because we were trying to decide whether we were going to elope, because Stephano was ready to marry me the next day. Once he made his decision, he put the ring on my finger and said, now we're committed in God's eyes and I'm married to you. And he's like, let's get married tomorrow. And we found out you can't do that in Australia, you need 4 weeks. So we got the papers and you know, discussed it with my dad. I told his mum. I hadn't met his parents yet. And I just said to Steph, well, if we're going to elope, I at least want them to know who I am. So I came and visited them at the bed and breakfast without revealing my identity and who I was. But then a friend of mine gave me a wedding dress, and I'm pretty sure it's a designer dress. And I just started to think maybe God wanted me to have a wedding. And Stephano even said to me, Jeannine, you've waited such a long time. You know, I feel you deserve a celebration. And so it's really funny because he was the one who was not for
against the wedding.
having a wedding. Yeah, he was the one encouraging it. So whenever he had, oh, there's a kangaroo. Whenever he had a bad attitude towards the wedding, I'd remind him, it was your choice. You encouraged me into having a wedding. But I really felt that it was to glorify God. That God was showing that he wasn't only going to provide a ring, but he could provide a wedding dress, and he's now since proven he's provided a wedding venue and so many things that we've been blessed with. And from Stephano having given, can I say, everything he owned basically away,
almost
knowing he didn't have anything, I was like, okay, I know God says in the Bible that go sell everything you have, give alms, give it to the poor, and come follow me. And I prayed to God and I said I would lay down everything to follow him if he wanted me to, but he'd have to help me. And I asked God to bring my future husband along in 6 months, and at the end of the 6 months is why I thought the other person was my future husband. But it was clear and evident to me. He looked perfect on paper because I met him online, but in reality he just didn't feel right. And I'm like, God, I need someone physically here. And I prayed if that person wasn't God's choice for me, that he'd bring my future husband along. And the next thing, I've got Stephano helping me in every way possible and being loyal to me and not leaving my side, and hasn't left my side since. So it's been very loyal.
I haven't.
I've left your side.
That's true, yeah, you have.
I've gone travelling. But he's been there. He's been so kind and considerate.
What's it been like living in different cities leading up to the wedding?
Jeannine lived in Germany for a little bit, or Europe for 3 months actually, and it's been good break, but I need her to keep focused on the wedding because I enjoy other things, you know, doing the wedding stuff. I like to leave it last minute. You know, I do a little bit at a time and then I have 20 different things to do which I start, and then I just do them progressively. And otherwise it's been good. Like, I like the whole break time. And then I miss her, then when she's here, you know, I love having her there, and then
I gave him too
I
much
want my break
freedom.
time again.
Too much freedom, and he had to adjust. We both had to adjust. I think the adjusting was challenging from us both being free. And you know, Stephano in Airlie Beach had no distractions, and now he's got his chickens and his ducks that he's been rearing, and he's got all the garden work here and his responsibilities at the bed and breakfast, and people he likes to visit regularly and gives massages to, and who knows what else. So the best thing about being apart was helping us to wait for our wedding day. So it was kind of like it seemed like the only option, really. Only solution was, okay, let's live apart in different countries. Well, it didn't have to be different countries, but it was just, it made things easier. And we got to bond in a way over the phone that showed me that it didn't matter how far apart we were. He would still read the Bible to me over the phone, care for me when I wasn't feeling well, and spend 3 hours just making funny faces over Messenger, and he was still proving to be very supportive. So it's been good.
And what are you most looking forward to with, I guess, in terms of what the wedding signifies or symbolizes?
For me personally, like bringing us together with God, like as in becoming one with God more, because you know you become one with God by yourself, that's definite, but when someone else is so different, you know, you have to adjust to sharing all the decisions together. You have to literally divulge everything. You have to become one. Instead it's just you and God, it's you, someone else, and God, and it's another test from God, and it's a very hard one. You know, it's not easy. There's so many things that have to be, you know, worked around, compromised, and all that. I just look forward to learning that with Jeannine, so I can have a better relationship with God. I think it actually, faithfulness, you know, if you're single, sure you can be faithful to God, but if you're with somebody else and there's all these, you know, outside distractions and all that, and your faithfulness is really tested, I think that just, God is just building you up in marriage to be more faithful to Him, you know, in heaven, or just be, you know, before the time of Jesus, before He returns, and yeah, as we're tested by fire. As the gold is tested by fire, we'll be tested by fire as well, but more by the Holy Spirit.
Sorry.
That's alright.
That's just an alarm. Sorry, say that last thing again. That was really
what
good.
I mean is just, you know, gold is, as the Bible says, the gold is tested by fire, and in a sense the Holy Spirit tests us and God tests us. It's the biggest test we'll ever go through. We'll see if we pass it, but I think that this unity between us and God, and I've always desired to be more focused on God, have more to do with God, and just learn to love Him, and learn to serve Him and respect and obey Him. And there's without a doubt in my mind that one of the reasons I'm marrying Jeannine is because she helps me become that man. And without her, it would be way more difficult. You know, obviously with God anything's possible. You don't have to be with someone to get close to Him, but it's the hardships is what builds you up.
I guess adding to that, like, his strengths and my strengths seem to complement each other so well.
She teaches me, I teach her. She teaches
So
me a lot more.
Where I'm weak, he's strong, and where he's weak, I'm strong. Yeah, so for me, marriage, I think back in 2011 I stepped into the unknown, and now it's doing that again, but with someone. It's like this adventure that awaits, and I know in the past God's had great things in store, and I'm sure He's got great things in store. We've had people say, you know, you're going to have a very adventurous life with Steph. I think it can be more fearless, because now I'm not on my own, I've got someone else. I'm more bold. And I was thinking, I've always been able to trust God and depend on Him you know, He's never failed me. But it's nice having someone physically, you know, that you can just feel more courageous with. Just, if you know, it's not coming against one now, they're coming against two. And there's a scripture where it says two is better than one, because if one falls down, the other's there to pick them up. I think, I trust that I'm going to be able to walk more courageously following God than before.
It feels like I've become a new person. With the two of us, I've become one new person, and you have to start from scratch all over again. It's pretty cool.
My favourite part is I've got the heart of hospitality, and he's got the skill. So it's been easier to be hospitable because it's the load shared. It's not all lying on me. And so yeah, in many ways it is easier serving together than serving alone.
Yeah, we just wait for what God has in store for us, and we trust God. And this time here is just for us getting married, but for the future, I just obviously dedicate the rest of my life to God. You know, all of it, my body, mind, and soul.
And I've made some plans, but I've also said, you know, commit your ways to the Lord, and He'll direct your steps. And if God is willing, we'll go here and we'll do that, and we'll go there. But we're also allowing Him to steer us. He opens doors, closes doors, and we just trust. If doors close, that He's going to use it and work it all for good. And just don't know what the future holds or what it looks like, but I'm leaving it all in God's hands.